Wife is upset I don't trust her, is having second thoughts about the baby. I kind of hate having to recap this situation, but to avoid some common questions I will. My 27M wife Amy 30F had an infidelity episode. We have been together for almost 7 years I believe. Since college, we got married a year or so after. It's a long and frankly tiring story to repeat. But I'm aware my behavior needs context. To start, she lost weight, in her words, felt attractive for the first time in her life. She has always been pretty, but was mostly into the whole body positivity movement, till we started losing weight due to a medical concern. She and her friends started showing themselves online to strangers behind my back and my wife got addicted to the attention. When her friend tried to get her to calm it down as she started going too far, doing private cams, sing, and accepting money from folks for private streams, she apparently didn't listen. I knew something was up with the lying, secrecy, gaslighting and all that, but the final straw was overhearing a convo between Mimi 30F and Amy where Mimi told her she was taking things too far and that she was going over the line, but I wasn't sure how or what it was about. And Mimi threatened to tell me herself if Amy didn't talk to me. I never thought at the time, but looking back, someone else would have considered this a sign that Amy was cheating on me with Mimi. I mean, they kind of were. But given our sexual history with Mimi, that was neither a question or an alarm. I confronted Mimi while Amy was at work telling her she and Amy can come get her stuff and Mimi spilled the beans, and told me the fight was because Mimi, who has warned Amy not to talk to people privately, do private cams, or any of that. And she had found Amy doing that behind her back and a particular fan was getting very insistent and offered Amy a huge chunk of money to do more. He had sent the money. Amy told Mimi that she had not intention of cheating though she basically already was. And that she would just keep the guy's money, something like $5,000, as it was sent to her PayPal as a gift. And she never agreed to it. But she had been caming for the guy and s-ing with him. To wrap up the recap, I was furious, confronted my wife. Heard her side of the story. Because we are definitely not hurting for money by even the most liberal stretch of the imagination. Found out from her that it had nothing to do with sexual gratification or wanting to duck other guys, which she claimed she didn't, or me or my performance as a lover or a partner. She had got addicted to the attention. The gratification. The fact that these people desired her enough to pay to see it and all THT. I took my leave of the house for about 4 months, left the state. Everyone went to therapy. We ended up deciding to reconcile, and it was a long process to get back to anything close to me not being randomly feeling betrayed, angry, and disgusted. I will go on record saying Mimi and Amy's sisters, Sissy, are both thin and attractive, but in my opinion neither are as attractive as my wife. At least not to me. My wife is very pretty, just was a bigger girl. Since I've always encouraged her, shared my love for her, and never disparaged her weight. I was blindsided by her body issues. As she was always aggressively pro-big girls, before this. And frankly, as a sexual being I prefer my ladies to have some meat on their bones. My wife checked all my buttons, so I wasn't sure at first where all this self-loathing was coming from. Spent a lot of time angry and blaming myself before finding out the truth. She hid it from me cause she didn't want to be one of those depressing fat girls. And thought apparently if she didn't say anything I would just keeping on, and not move on to anyone better. I asked the fact that I loved her, married her, moved halfway across the country away from all my friends and family, bought her a huge house, and worked tirelessly to make her happy wasn't enough to show that I loved her. She told me that loving her and being attracted to her are two different things. Frankly, it is a nightmare dealing with my own hate and sense of betrayal, and wanting to help my wife through this mental weight that has had her down her entire life it seems. It's not easy, but I've been managing, through therapy, honesty, and finding out some truths. I've come to terms with a lot of my wife's insecurities. None of it excuses her behavior, but I'll give some highlights. She was bullied by her thin sister most of her life for being big. After being overweight killed their mother. I didn't know her stepmother was not their real mother till now. She had always been sore that I had liked her sister before we got together, and thought I settled for her. And thought that all my support, love, and encouragement Was just what I had to do cause I was stuck with the consolation prize. There are some more, but basically, she spent the entire relationship feeling like a charity case or something. With that out of the way. Current situation. Amy is pregnant, before you ask, yes, got a paternity test as soon as it was viable. Things have been going well between us after a really rough time. Intimacy was hard for me. Even returning to my home took me time. Sleeping in the same room was a no-go for almost a year, but I feel like we've turned a corner. I'm not as certain that I'm an idiot waiting for my wife to betray me again. The problem was that things were going well and Amy's worked hard and is doing all the right things. And has for quite some time. Now she's pregnant and emotional and seems to be very happy, though fussy about a lot of stuff. Randomly she sat down while I was working and apologized again. She has been apologizing for a while like this, so I didn't think anything of it. She starts crying and says she almost ruined us. And that she wants to be a good mom and a better wife. She laments her actions and talks to me some more about her fears coming up. The fact that the video she put online can come back to bite her at any time and may make her life miserable at any moment. She talks about how stupid she was and how sorry she was, and how she's so happy that she was given another chance. How she knows she doesn't deserve it, or me, but that she is happy that I found it in my heart not to abandon her. I hugged her and all was good, for about a few seconds. She then says something that irked me. She said she was happy that I trusted her enough to try. I stopped, because that was the first thing she said that felt wrong. It must have shown on my face, so she asked me what. I shrugged and told her thank you, and said it's going to be difficult, for everyone, but I've made the decision to try and make it work, because I love her. She picks up on the evasive answer and asked me again what the problem was. I looked at her and told her that trust takes time. I then told her that once you break something, no matter how much care you put into gluing it back together, it will never be whole again. It will never be what it was. You lose flakes, little dust particles, pieces that made it what it was. And when you sit it down, even if you got it looking exactly like it should, you're careful, cause you know it can break easier the next time. Amy asks if that means she's never going to live down what she did. I told her I didn't know, that I hoped so. But that's all I had, was hope. She asked if that meant I would never trust her again. I told her I don't know. Trust takes time. Right now I have hope that things will be better. But as far as faith and trust, I simply can't have faith and I don't completely trust anyone anymore. I told her that statistically speaking, it was far more likely that she'd cheat on me or betray me, than that everything is good from now on. Most people who commit infidelities are repeat offenders. And most people who reconcile find out later that their spouse just got better at hiding their illicit activities. She found a reason once to lie to me, to betray me, to gaslight me, to put our entire relationship at risk. And it wasn't hard to find some justification. I told her the mind is an amazing tool and that people can justify a lot of things. I hope we make it and everything will be okay. I love her and have chosen to take the risk, but I'm not in a position to offer my trust, and I'm just not the kind of person who has strong faith in things I can't quantify. All the data is telling me I'm a moron and that having a child with her is probably a mistake I will end up sorely regretting. Forgiving a cheater seems to be, but I love her and she seems sincere, so I'm beating against the odds. I hope the trust returns, but it takes time. In the meantime, she has all my hopes. She did not take this well. At all. In fact, she started ugly crying. I didn't know what to say to her, so I just held her. She then asks if I don't trust her, then am I even happy about the baby? I told her yes. Regardless of her or I'm gonna love my kid no matter what. We certainly weren't trying for a baby, but I'm all on board with being a dad. She asks if I think I'm stupid for having a child with her. I answer that all evidence points to that being the case. I hope I'm not, but again, the odds are not in my favor. She took this even worse. She asks why not just have an abortion, why subject me to this if I don't have faith in us. I told her that faith isn't easy and trust takes time. I got hope. That's about it right now. That it will take more time and we're just on the journey. Hopefully we'll get there together. Amy got quiet and then began sobbing. She left the room and locked herself in her office. I checked on her several times, but she was just crying. Then her mother came to get her, hugged me, and told me she will sort it out. Amy's been at her parents' house for 2 days. I've called. I'm hearing Amy is having second thoughts about the baby, thought we are almost 4 months into the pregnancy. I've come by her house to drop off food I cooked for her, but Amy cries every time she sees me now. So I just give it to her father and leave. I'm being told that it's just hormones and that everything will be okay. Amy's therapist is on vacation, and I can't wait for her to get back. What am I supposed to do her? I'm trying to be honest and supportive. I've had to balance my own feelings and hers for so long now, and now that she's pregnant, am I expected to get over it? Hey, you chose to reconcile so you can't have those feelings anymore? The situation seems delicate and I have all the tact of a rampaging elephant. What can I do here? How do I make this woman feel better without lying to her? Do I have to suck it up and pretend I don't have fears and doubts? I do. I'm scared shitless that the next time she's depressed she'll do something crazy to make herself feel better. I also have the nagging doubts in my head given how most of these stories have ended on Reddit. I'm not ready to throw in the towel. I made my decision. I am reconciling and we are having a baby. We are staying married and I do love this woman with all my heart. But I do not trust her with that heart. I just need some advice on how to navigate these emotions. Update: wife is upset I don't trust her, is having second thoughts about the baby. So with that said, please stop asking me why I don't hate Mimi or think she is the problem. My wife is grown, made her own decisions, and has 100% of the blame and my ire. Also, if your comment isn't support for my path, real ducking advice on the path I've chosen, if it's just anti-reconciliation bias and BLLS it, I'm gonna just block you. Like seriously. If you insult me. If you insult her, I'm gonna block and report you. Someone saying, hey, I don't think it will work and here's why. And it's done in a supportive and constructive way. Cool. But you people know exactly what I'm talking about. There are people here who are here specifically to S it on and discourage anyone trying to reconcile. I ain't for it. So I woke up earlier this morning to my wife, sitting at the foot of the bed. She just sat there. I didn't say anything and I just stared at her for a while. She then told me she was sorry for everything. She looked down and told me she had something to say and she needed me to listen. I cannot tell you with complete accuracy all she said, but I will try my best to paraphrase. None of this is verbatim. She said, I am guilty of committing a heinous betrayal against you and against Mimi. I know that. I know that I used our special bond and relationship with Mimi to manipulate her into going along with something under false pretenses. She admitted at first, she wanted to make the video with Mimi for me. She felt sexy and beautiful for the first time, like she could be one of the women I've drawn. Like the character I created for her. She remembered earlier in our relationship when Mimi was fooling around with us, how much I enjoyed some of the artwork I had made for both of them of our characters doing stuff and wanted to recreate one thing in particular. To be honest, in all of this I've forgotten. It was so long ago and I was so new at doing NSFW commissions and art. I had deleted a lot of my early work when I was going through my I hate my art phase, and feeling like I wasn't a real artist, cause I had to accept pornographic commissions to get by. That image I did of Mimi and Amy's characters doing it on live stream was something to entice people to commission me. At the time, it was the best image I had drawn, and it worked. I got quite a few commissions on HF for that. Then a lot more, then a ton more. I had to raise my prices to keep from being overwhelmed. But people still commissioned me. I got better, charged more. Even when I got up to charging $200 per character, people still commissioned me with great frequency. It all started with those images, and that one in particular, but it had been so long. I forgot about it. It wasn't as important to me anymore. She said that at first that was all it was and Mimi was happy to help. But she really enjoyed doing it. Just feeling sexy and important. So she asked Mimi if she could be on cam with her. I said I know. She said I don't. She said, she knew full well at the time, that the first thing would be fine, but being on cam, even in a mask might be detrimental. That she just wanted to know how it felt. That she wanted to have that confidence Mimi had. That she wanted that so bad she lied to Mimi telling her that I was cool with it. That she betrayed my and Mimi's trust. She told me she understood that it wasn't just the trust of a normal relationship. Knowing that Mimi and she fooled around and experimented when they were younger, I was never uncomfortable with her alone with Mimi. That was how much I trusted her. She had access to my bank, my passwords, my phone, everything. She knew all my passwords and I never hid anything from her. That was how much I trusted her. Mimi took her at her word. Even when she started to ask to be more involved and Mimi began to have doubts and suspicions and openly began to question her about things, she abused her trust and lied to her about my compliance. She lied to herself saying it was the same as the pornographic commissions I did of our characters. That I've drawn my character, Mimi's, hers, for commissions. With other people's characters. It was just digital characters, it was just online, it wasn't real. She compared what she was doing to that, but knew as she was doing it was flimsy. She apologized and said, I lied, knowing I was lying. Knowing I was making excuse. Knowing you would have a problem. I knew it because I had to hide it. She said she didn't want to stop. She didn't want Mimi to tell her to stop. She didn't want me to tell her to stop. The attention was in her words, intoxicating. It wasn't cheating in her mind. Not really. She had no emotional or physical connection to anyone. She didn't desire anyone else. She just liked the feeling. The knowledge that they would pay money to see her. That she was beautiful enough that people who knew they could never touch her, that she would never reciprocate their lust, that she was simply there to be desired and nothing more would still pay money to see her. She admitted she started doing the private cams on her phone cause it was getting harder to convince Mimi I was cool with everything, and a few times she had to stop Mimi from bringing it up. Our anniversary hadn't come up yet, so she was able to keep Mimi from spilling to me about it under the guise that I would see the stuff on our anniversary. Amy said she knew Mimi had enjoyed the huge boost in viewers and money on her from their collaboration, but was always so weary of them. She believed Mimi knew something was wrong after the second video, and was smart enough to piece it together, but lied to herself. I spoke up for the first time and said, the money, the viewership, and her trust in you didn't blind her, it helped her convince herself of something she knew wasn't true and that's Mimi's sin to bear. Amy then said after the anniversary passed was when things got awkward. Mimi had asked me about my anniversary gift and I was clueless. She had hinted at something, that seems obvious now, but at the time confused me. I don't think Amy explained it away, but kind of shushed her. Their little secretive back and forth, non-verbal is what started me snooping. My alarm bells had already been going off because of how secretive she'd gotten with her phone, and how she'd been acting. I told her I already know what she did and I've made peace with it. That version of us is dead and gone. She can't make up for it. We need to see if we can move forward. She says she knows, but she can't move forward without being really honest. I asked her if she slept with anyone then. She said no, looking offended. But then looked down and said she knows I have no reason to believe her, but she did not and would never. She says she had to admit that I am right not to trust her. That she was an awful person. That she is trying to move forward, be a better person, but she doesn't think we can rebuild any trust unless she admits to everything. My heart went cold. I prepared myself to hear the worst of it. The last bit of trickle truth like everyone online said. I wanted to know how bad it was. I wondered if she would abort our baby if it was so terrible that I left her on the spot. If it wasn't ducking someone else, what could it be? She then told me something that brought me up short. I enjoyed it. She said it so softly I didn't hear her the first time. I asked her to repeat herself, and she said it again, but only a little louder. The second time she burst out crying and shouted it, before burying her head in a pillow. I told her that was obvious. No one puts their job, life, marriage, and closest friendship on the line to show their body to strangers if they don't enjoy it. But she screamed no. She shook her head and she said no. I asked if she was talking about the attention. The intoxicated gratification. And she said, she did, but that's not what she's talking about. She started ugly crying. And I just waited for her to get on with it. Amy then admitted that she enjoyed feeling like she had won over on me. Feeling like she was clever and smart. How she had hid it. How she had got away with it. How she had managed to maneuver around Mimi and me. She said I was always so much smarter than her. So much better than her. I would tell her that she was pretty, that I loved her, and that she was amazing, but always made her feel stupid. Everyone was so much smarter than her, so much more clever. She apologized again and said she wasn't trying to manipulate me or anything. That's not what she meant. That sometimes, when she was gaslighting me, not the word she used, she felt excited, smart, that she could come up with logical arguments and excuses on the fly. That she was selling me and Mimi and she got good at. It gave her confidence at work. It made it easier to be LLS'd and convince clients. It made it easier to look her co-workers in the eye and instruct them on how to sell. She felt so smart. She felt like she had all the benefits of an affair without actually having to have an affair. Though she was smart and people who ducked around on their husbands were stupid. That they didn't need to duck someone else to get that confidence, that gratification. She had found a loophole and she was exploiting it and made her feel good about herself. She said she felt beautiful, but she also felt smart. She apologized and said, "You don't trust me because I enjoyed betraying your trust." I felt good about it. Amy said she thought she was smart and that she was successfully lying to me and Mimi, but the only person she managed to completely fool was herself. I saw through her. Mimi saw through her. She then admitted for the first time that she knew it was over that day when Mimi had a fight in our house. That she suspected Mimi was yelling to get my attention. Something I heard before. That Mimi became impossible to deceive when she found out about the private cam sessions. I told her what Mimi told me. That she had warned her against doing that. Even talking to fans. She nodded and told me that Mimi had been very worried about that and very angry when she found out. Angrier than she was when she confronted her about Amy lying to her or me. The guy, who she referred to as that Cheshire guy, was the last straw. The guy had made similar overtures Mimi, which this is the first I'd heard that. Amy said she didn't know that at first. That Mimi never pointed him out by name, just talked about guys like him. Amy said she felt smarter than those guys. That they would pay her money and she would do whatever the hell she wanted. That they couldn't trick her into anything. She felt like she was in control. She said again she felt clever. She said all the guys offer to duck you for money. You say no, you do what you want and they don't get what they want and pay you anyway. Because you're desirable and they take what they can get. When the guy said he'd pay her $5,000, she didn't believe him, so she just told him no again. When he sent it and told her it was proof of his sincerity, she felt smart and superior. Amy said she felt triumphant. That even this amount of money wasn't enough to sway her. That the argument I walked in on her and Mimi was about this. That she finally told Mimi and used that as an example of how she could handle it. How this idiot just sent her $5,000 as a gift just to entice her and he failed. She felt superior. She felt better than him. She felt better than all those girls who teased her. She felt better than Sissy whose husband cheated on her and ran away with another woman, despite her being skinny and pretty. She had me and everything I was, and she didn't appreciate it. She took it for granted. She wanted more, she felt she deserved more. And she felt she could get it at the expense of everyone's trust, because she finally felt smart again. She apologized and cried a while before she started back up. She then said, she should have told me, but didn't know how to say it. How to express how I made her feel. That I wasn't doing anything wrong. I asked her what she meant, 'cause I was confused. She said she had always felt ugly 'cause she was fat. That guys thought she was pretty enough to fool around with in high school and first year in college, but would never stick around. She would later see them dating skinnier girls. But those girls were stupid and she wasn't. Amy had always felt smart. She had always been a good student. She had always been intelligent, or so she thought. College shattered that illusion. Nothing came easy like it did in high school and she wasn't seen as a smart girl anymore, just the fat girl. But she still felt like her mind was her best asset. That she was smarter than most. Then she dated me and I made her realize how unintelligent she was. I asked her if I made her feel stupid. She said yes, every day. All that time. I got angry, not going to lie. I asked her what did I do. She yelled back that it's simply me being me. I always have to be right. I'm always right. That I always know what to do and say. She brought up how incredulous I look when she doesn't know something I thought should be common knowledge. She then yells that they didn't teach Greek mythology or Roman mythology in her high school. They didn't teach us about the Native Americans, or Haiti, or Chinese empires or whatever. She even brought up how I laughed at her when we talked about Joan of Arc and she had spent her entire life thinking Jonah was a girl's name and that historical figure was named Joan of Arc. She said I can be insufferable with it. I told her that I wasn't trying and she said that made it worse. That she can see me trying to dumb myself down. That I pretend not to know stuff. That I act less and that I don't talk to her like I talk to people I respect. She says sometimes I sound like a teacher dealing with a slow student, or a parent talking to their kid. She said she wasn't attractive and now she wasn't smart either. But when she was doing her dirt she felt smart and she felt attractive. She had coveted that feeling. She coveted it enough to put everything at risk, proving that she was stupid. Proving that she was untrustworthy. She told me she wasn't upset because I didn't trust her. She understands that you have to spend way more time fixing something than you took to break it. Amy just thought she was doing better and that she had finally started to quiet those nagging doubts and believed that she could actually forgive herself. That she could fix things. Unfortunately, I'm still a little tactless cause I immediately asked if she thought the baby was going to make things better. She stopped for a moment and said, no. Then she said a little. I told her that children complicate things. That no relationship or bond that was broken ever got mended because of a baby. She said she didn't see it like that. That wasn't what she meant. She said that I came alive again. She was scared that the news of the baby would upset me. That I would ask her to abort the baby because now was the worst time for her to be pregnant because I didn't know if I wanted to be with her anymore. But my reaction was completely the opposite of what she had feared. I came alive. I was happy. I was proud. I would tell anyone and everyone I was having a baby. It wasn't the baby that made her feel like we were turning a corner, it was my reaction to it. She said I mopped less. That I wasn't staring off into space looking sad as much. That she'd stop catching me staring at her with my judging eyes. Instead I would look at her and look at her belly and smile, where before I would look really disappointed and just look away. She felt like I had made my decision. That I wasn't going to just bolt any second no matter if she was doing right. That I was willing to try to make it work. That even though she had broken my trust, ruined us, and had even stupidly felt good about herself while doing it, I had enough faith to try. She said it was painful to hear that I had no faith in us at all. That I didn't trust her at all. That I was just hoping. She said something I felt was pretty good analogy. She said it felt like being a lottery ticket, you don't expect to win, but you hope you do. But she felt like the payout for her wasn't worth the price of the ticket, and I had told her as much. I don't know why I said what I said next, but I guess I was thinking about the replies to my last post. The abortion talk really got to me. Most people telling me it's not my choice what she does with her body. I know my body, my choice, in theory. I support it. But it's my child. I told her that abortion is not an option. If she aborted my child I would hate her forever. I would dedicate the rest of my life to making her pay. My child is worth the price of the ticket. She got really quiet and then told me she knew. She never considered aborting the child, not matter what happens between us. She could never do that. I yelled and asked why she said that then. She told me she didn't know. Which made me angry, and I accused her of saying it to manipulate me. I then asked her if her crying was a manipulation. Was her leaving to her mom's and not seeing me a manipulations? Does she still feel clever? I admit I started thinking about all the nasty posts and comments I have read here. I was pretty aggressive with a few questions and accusations, but she didn't need them. We talked and she finally said something that I really did believe. She envied other women. Women who desired for more than just being a pretty fat girl whose only value is her self-esteem is low enough that you could probably duck. She envied Mimi and her sister. She envied Danny, who was always so beautiful and perfect. She said she never appreciated that those girls envied her. Amy admitted she'd been reading up on cheating and cheaters and that most think they absolutely need something they lack. That they are willing to risk what they have to get something else or something more, and that she was guilty of that. That she took me and our relationship for granted. My trust, and she doesn't deserve to have it, but is selfish enough to still want it. Most cheaters don't realize what they're doing isn't what they want more until they lose what they already have. I told her you don't need to read books to know that's the case most of the time. But then again, most cheaters don't pop up screaming about how cheating was the best thing they could have ever done. Look at how well their life turned out. She then took my hand and told me something I remember well, but not verbatim, 'cause it was the last thing she said. I'm sorry I destroyed our marriage. I'm sorry I destroyed your trust in me. I'm sorry I'm not the woman you deserve and that I never appreciated you like I should have. If your hope is all you're willing to give me, then I will take that and be humble. I will appreciate that and build on that. If you should decide now or in the future that I'm not worth the effort, it will hurt me, but I won't hate you for it. Every second you're here with me, giving me a chance I don't deserve, is a blessing. She then said, I'm willing to take whatever you're willing to give me. And if that's nothing at all? She looked me dead in the eye and said, then I will appreciate that too. It wasn't her words. It wasn't her tone or body language that made me want to believe her. Just the look in her eyes. The truth is, I knew something was up from the beginning. I just didn't know what. Amy has a horrible poker face. I honestly believe her. I do, but that's how she feels today, and I told her so. This time with a little more tact. I said, that's how you feel today. How will you feel tomorrow, or the day after that? I don't know when she's going to decide it's not worth the effort. She told me that she doesn't know. She has faith that will never happen. I told her I hope it doesn't. She nodded and hugged me. She then cried herself to sleep. I left the room and played Genshin until I decided to write the post. I have mixed feelings about the whole thing, and I know this is a lot. But there was a lot. I don't need advice, this is an update. I got good and bad advice in the last message. I'm not swayed, I'm not more trusting, and I don't have more faith. I still really hope everything works out. But I'm prepared for it all to crash and burn. But I'm strangely placated, though voices in my head are seeding doubt. That's where we stand now. I'll update others if and when it's relevant, hopefully not all this word vomit you got to sift through this time. Edit, for people new to me and my situation. Mimi, her friend, used to duck around with us in the beginning of our marriage before she herself got into a relationship. This is why the idea of Mimi and my wife together, or them making an actual gift for me, isn't got me all riled up, and why Mimi was willing to make the video in the first place. This was mentioned before, but for like the first 3 years of our marriage, sometimes Mimi would be a part of our sex life. We didn't record it or videotape it or anything like that. Just something that happened. Mimi didn't start doing or any of that until maybe 2 years ago. I'm not entirely sure. But when people keep messaging me about Mimi and why I'm not more angry at her, it's because I know from the text and conversations between them that my wife misled Mimi and used our previous relationship or intimacy to do it.